This is a little bit of a Zaza question for you, Dibs.
Okay. That's a good question. It's also a stupid question.
Exactly what I was getting at. Have you ever thought something is both a stupid point and a good point?
Sure.
At the same time?
Yeah.
I kind of think this is that. Check it out. Simmons and Russillo on the Warrior offseason.
If we're just talking what's the most fun, Durant to Golden State is the most fun. If they're just like, we're running it back. It's like when a band gets back together. It's like, oh, the Police are back together. Sting and Stuart Copeland and Andy Summers, they're all talking. They're going to do a tour. We're like, what? That would be the Warriors.
Okay, first of all, Bill Simmons clearly wants to do music media. Like every comparison now, right? He's like, we're doing sports podcasts, and then Eddie Vedder is on the show.
Right.
I'm like, dude, just lean into it. Just lean into it, dude. Go do a music podcast. But anyway, it's a silly point. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just have fun. Like, who cares about the cap? Who cares about winning? Let's get stupid. But he's also right. In other words, going back to the point I made yesterday, I do think that there's a big part of the conversations. I could be wrong, but I feel like in the Warrior war rooms right now, the conversation is not solely, hey, how can we be really good next year? How can we save the rest of Steph Curry's career? Any of this stuff. I also think it's how can we stop from being stale? How can we be a show again? And that's the danger of Klay Thompson being your big offseason signing. As much as we're all emotionally attached to Klay and love him, if that's what you offer your fan base for an offseason that feels like the biggest one in recent memory, and all you do is just kind of look exactly the same, and then you're ho-humming at 500 in early February, you run the risk of feeling stale.
Yeah, of being the Giants. And we can get into that as the week rolls on, because that is stale. And, you're pulling for Slates and Wilmer and late night Lamont, who hasn't been late night in years. And if you're the Warriors and you bring back the same band of brothers and you get the same results, then yeah, you've kind of seen it, right? You've been there and you've done that. And even though KD would be a reprisal of an era gone by and everybody's older now, and it probably won't net the same results, there's a definite sizzle to it when you bring back Kevin Durant, KD and Steph again with Draymond. And you're right, it would signal the end of Klay Thompson. And, Klay might be gone anyway. No matter whether you get Kevin Durant or not, Klay Thompson's time with the Warriors might already be done based on the money. And maybe Klay wants to try something else anyway. We don't really know the full details of what's going to happen, KD notwithstanding. So if you're going to do something different, you might as well make a big splash. That'd be fun.
I did sort of get that vibe from Klay down the stretch. I didn't really want to say it because I don't know if I'm reading it right, and that's all I'm doing. Like
right.
He didn't say it. I don't know it. I'm just listening to him talk. And when he says at the end of the year, I need to find out what my priorities are. I need to find out what's best for my mental health. I need to think about that, what would really feel good the rest of the way. This is just me. This is an unfair way to sort of present it. But there was part of my brain that went, gosh, what are you grinding on right now? You got to figure out what your priorities are. Is it not obvious to you? Because if it was I want to retire a Warrior, that would that would be in a neon sign. That's been my priority. It's still my priority. But he has been, of course I want to stay with the Dubs, but has kind of been the vibe. And I'm like, gosh, there is a possibility that Klay looks at this whole thing and goes, not I want to leave, but I see why that might be best for everyone involved.
It's time to leave. It might be the way to look at it. And you saw him do a 360 panoramic after they lost to Sacramento, and he was taking it all in. That was the moment where I kind of was reflecting on Klay's future, where, he took that moment to look around and maybe get that last gasp of, I'm a Warrior here, and I'm just going to take a look here as the season ends, my last season in Golden State maybe, before he exited the floor. So I think he's in a spot where, he probably wants more money than they're willing to pay him. And he knows that if he comes back, they can't sign anyone else. And so you're going to be in the same situation as you were this year.
Couple things I want to mention to you before we continue this conversation. First of all, $500 credit to La Garza Sports Camp for your kids this summer. It's a ton of fun. By the way, they've got items they've got sort of like themes to their camps that are not all just sports. So I know you're listening to sports radio, but if your kid is like, I am a chef, well, they've got
something. Chef!
Yeah, exactly. Well, boy, if your kid is the chef, then congratulations on the money. But anyway, whatever your kid wants to do, they got something for you. And these camps are great. And I can say that from experience. My son went last year. He'll go again this year. Everybody who runs this is just really, really good. So a $500 credit for your kids this summer. Make sure you're listening right at 4 o'clock, and we will tell you how to win. Speaking of 4 o'clock, Amin El Hassan, who is one of the most fun voices out there and is big on the NBA, he's going to join us at 4 o'clock as well. So that's coming up in an hour. Eric Pink is coming up in 10 minutes. Eric, for Bleacher Report, and a capologist, wrote a big article on how the Phoenix Suns are just ready to completely come apart at the seams. To me, look, we have to remember that the Warriors also cannot head into this offseason with their pick of the litter. They are also in a situation and in a tough spot, as we've detailed many times. So this may well, I find it to be a fit. Two teams, both in a bad situation. Warriors in a tough spot. Phoenix is in a disaster mode. But I do see the potential for both sides to help one another out a little bit. I really do.
Potentially, and I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of the finances, but I'm looking at the Pincus article, and what Phoenix is facing restrictions-wise is the same as Golden State.
Correct.
Because they're both in that second apron luxury tax. And so he's writing that Phoenix, Golden State, can bring back an equal or lower salary for any player, but not $1 more. So the Warriors and Suns would have to find a trade that is absolutely dollar specific to the penny in order to deal just with each other and not have a third team involved.
Well, no, because the Warriors can get under the second apron before this deal is even consummated. The Warriors have that option.
They would have to decline Chris Paul in order to do that.
I'm not sure about that. Klay Thompson already being a free agent, that's another question for Eric. But
even with Klay off the books, they're still at 174.
Well, 178 is the second apron. So they're under. So that would pin them under.
That's what the second apron is at 178.
So if you're at 174, we got action.
So then the Warriors could take back less than they're sending out, but Phoenix can't take back more.
Correct. Phoenix cannot take back more.
And Phoenix cannot aggregate.
But the Warriors can. The Warriors can.
If they get below the apron.
Yeah.
By declining either Chris Paul or Klay Thompson.
If you're going to get Kevin Durant, you're declining Klay Thompson. Yes. Klay Thompson is a free agent.
Unless he's a part of the sign and trade, as I was outlining earlier.
And that's obviously a question as to whether or not, I don't even know if that's allowed. I can't wait to find out the answer. But yes, to me.
And Phoenix cannot receive or send a player via a sign and trade. Okay. This according to the Pincus piece.
They can't send.
Or receive.
Oh, so there you go.
So Phoenix cannot send or receive a player via sign and trade.
So no Klay Thompson.
And no Chris Paul. I guess Chris Paul would work because he's not a sign and trade.
Right. He's an opt-in.
There you go.
He's an opt-in and trade. Like, here's the other beauty about this. You're gonna get a big smoke signal before it happens, because I think it's June 28th, maybe 27th for Chris Paul. This is one of the fun things about the offseason. You're either going to see, and I think this is the likely outcome, the Warriors just decline Chris Paul, and poof, there's money on the books that they could be using for Klay Thompson. If they opt in on Chris Paul, then it means that the trade wins are about to blow.
It becomes fully guaranteed on the 28th.
There you go. Thank you, Grandy.
There it is.
Yep, June 28th. So, and that's going to be all butting up against free agency starting July 1st. And you would imagine between now and then, and we're already into May, for crying out loud. That thing snuck right up on you.
Sure did.
You got about a month and a half for the KD part of it to play out. The I want out, or probably going to be a whole a whole cycle of, I'm really happy here. I want to give it another go. And then
I think he's going to be silent. I'm totally silent. He is under contract for 2 more years.
Yeah.
And nobody, including Kevin, nobody benefits by going to the media and barking. And the season is over. The press conference.
Well, he doesn't have to bark at the media. The leak will come out.
No, but he doesn't this conversation may have already happened. The only way I see that this goes to the media is if Kevin Durant is trying to work his way out and Phoenix is like, no, we're keeping you. And Kevin really wants to get out and they won't let him. And I doubt that because then again, it's why I think these two are a good match. I really think they can scratch one another's back. The Warriors need a 2. They need to get off of Andrew Wiggins. They need to get under the second apron. They need to be more interesting. Phoenix needs to trade one of their stars, needs future first-round capital.
They sent their 3 first rounds to Brooklyn in 25, 27, and 29.
F them picks.
And they have pick swaps in 26, 28, and 30.
Correct.
So even if they get a good pick in 26, well, they got to swap it with Washington or Memphis.
Well, no, that's their own.
Right.
That's their own. I don't think that
they gave away swap rights to Washington and Memphis. So if Phoenix winds up with the 8th pick and Memphis is 14th, Memphis gets the 8, and you go back to 14.
Well, it's still capital. That's what they need.
No, it's capital, but to your point about what they need,
yes.
In those even years, they get the lesser of the 2 picks with them in Memphis and them in Washington.
Well, but again, isn't that's with their own pick, not with anything that they would acquire elsewhere.
No, it's their own pick. But
right.
Yes, but even if you're still bad, if Phoenix is bad in 2026, which is a couple years from now, KD's gone, and Bradley Beal and Booker still aren't working out, and you're in the lottery and you get the 9th overall pick, well, you don't get the 9th pick.
Correct.
You wind up getting Memphis or Washington's pick.
So, in other words, up a creek.
No doubt.
So, they're not in a great position, and the Warriors can